Welcome to Home Gym History. My name is Rob from Vintage Weights PGH, and I'm here with Jared Griffin from Prime Fitness USA. Welcome.
Thank you, man.
So Jared is going to come to Home Gym Con in a couple weeks, and he'll be bringing some great stuff from his company, Prime Fitness, and we're going to talk today about some of the company's history, as well as some of the things to look forward to at Home Gym Con. So if you don't have your tickets yet, use code VINTAGE to pick up those tickets at Home Gym Con. So now that we got all the promotion out of the way.
Right.
Brief for viewers that may not know too much about Prime Fitness. Just an elevator pitch, like what? How would you define
my
it?
sales pitch,
Your
huh?
sales pitch, because obviously you make gym equipment. I
Yeah.
mean, they wouldn't be watching this if that wasn't the case.
Right.
But what makes Prime Fitness a little different or makes it?
So, man, I would say a couple of things. One of the big things is that people may not know is we're a small family-owned business. So definitely not as large as maybe we portray or maybe people think we are. But kind of how we got our name in the industry would be our Smart Cam and our torque arm, so anything that falls under that smart arm or the smart strength technology, giving you the ability to modify the strength curve within an exercise movement. So that's kind of our claim to fame. It has been since day one, and we just kind of keep finding different ways to put an innovative spin on just, you know, your everyday products.
Yeah.
And we're proudly made in the USA. I should say that
I was
as well.
just gonna
So
say-
I can't forget that, right?
I was going to throw that in there for you, that yeah, small family business plus, I don't know if small, but family business.
Yeah, family business, right.
Family business, and then made in the United States. And we're right here, like maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours north of Pittsburgh, my beloved city.
Right.
So finally, I'm visiting Prime Fitness. Jason at Manu Parks and Gym has been harassing me for a while why I haven't finished. I haven't
Made
come
the
and
trip, right?
Visited, yeah. As far as your products, some time ago, maybe around 2020, like COVID-19 kind of era, that's when Prodigy Racks came out, correct?
So we actually launched the Prodigy Racks a couple years before that,
Okay.
but that's where they really took off. So, you know, with gyms shutting down, COVID kind of taking over, I don't want to say that's what saved our business, but that's definitely what helped carry the business through COVID. And it introduced us to this home gym, garage gym community.
Well, that's what I was going to ask about, was that, you know, you've had products long before that, and then Strive, company prior to you, had products for decades, but that's sort of the spot where I see the home gym history happening, when I see, okay, there's a targeted product for home gym owners, and then since then you've had several, so I wanted to know the relationship with that. So coming through COVID, that, you know, it was a serendipitous thing. A couple years prior, you developed the Prodigy.
Yeah, we were kind of in the right place at the right time with
Yeah.
it, man. Just being honest. I'll
Yeah.
say we got lucky. I guess
Sure.
that's the best way to describe it.
Hey, that's fine. Well, then reaching back further than that, like I just mentioned, Strive. So what's your family's relationship with that? How did you go from the original family business, which was fabrication, which you're still running.
do every day.
Yeah, it's the other side of the building that I just parked at.
Right.
How did you get to the point where you're rebranding the Prime? Like, can you give us a little rundown on that?
So we initially had started the fabrication business is doing work for Strive. Started with just powder coating, and they would ship truckloads of equipment in, we'd powder coat it, send it back out, and they took care of all the assembly, sales, and everything at that point. Then we kind of went through this different levels of progression, I guess we'll call it, that we started then doing some painting and fabricating, welding and different things. Then it turned into more like laser cutting, welding, and still the painting, then light assembly. And we just kind of worked our way into producing the entire units. So, you know, we did that for several years, and then went through the deal or the opportunity to acquire Strive and the brand, and kind of make it our own. So we were very fortunate that we were familiar with the product. We understood how to build the product because we've been doing it for several years, working with their engineers, their assembly and sales team. And we were fortunate enough to be able to bring them on. So like their lead engineer still works with us today. We still have guys on the assembly floor. Like there's a whole group of them that kind of came with that business. And then we started checking into like, what did this Strive name mean in the marketplace? There was good and bad, but ultimately we decided at the end to just kind of go through this rebrand. And that's kind of where Prime started, and it's just been evolving ever since.
And that was about 2014?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
So 2014, rebrand the Prime.
Yep.
As far as Strive, I told you before we were recording that I reached out to a wonderful source of information, Jan Dellinger. He's a former employee at York Barbell who's retired, and he just has been in the business longer than a lot of people have been alive. And he said that he remembered Strive well, that they were known for what is now the smart system and the adjustable nature of the cams. So you continue on with that for
Correct.
Strive.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, then from there, what was one of the first, stepping out for Prime on its own innovations, if you will?
So I will say, when we first kind of started, they had what we referred to as our legacy line, and then the plate loaded line. Okay. We very early on branched out, developed our hybrid line, as it is today, and our evolution line. So that was kind of like the first two big steps that we took out. And then the rotate handles was the next one. So the rotate handles, Strive used to just kind of throw in with their functional trainers, and it was like, hey, buy a functional trainer, here you get these cool handles.
It's an add-on, yeah.
Yeah, and we were like, man, I think there's a great opportunity there. And we just kind of modified them slightly, not much, and we're like, we're gonna work to see if people would be interested in buying these handles, and they were. And then next, fast forward, then we ended up with long bar, short bar, the multi-grip handles, and pretty much launching a website just to handle the sales for these accessories, which I would also say probably was getting us into more of that home gym space, I guess even earlier on than the Prodigy racks. But yeah, we took a handle that they used to just include, and we have sold thousands and thousands and thousands around the world.
Well, I mean, I could see that even if you're not buying a machine, even if you're not buying a rack, maybe you're buying a handle from Prime. And
it was still a way for people to get a piece of Prime at obviously a much lower cost than one of our machines.
Sure. Now, Prime, when you're rebranding, where's that come from? Where's the name come from?
Yeah, so we worked with a marketing company down south, and because we had we were a sheet metal fabrication business, that basically was built off of word of mouth and quality, just kind of, that's where we got our business on the fab side. So didn't have to do any marketing or anything to attract new customers, so it was all new to us. We hired a company, they were the ones that came up with it, and they basically, their approach was, how do you find your Prime? How do people find their Prime? Not something that we've necessarily stood by over the years, because we've kind of bodybuilding has adopted us as a brand, and we kind of got away from how do you find your Prime, right?
As a slogan.
But we realize it's all different, and that's just kind of where it came from. And then that's also how we got into green, right?
Well, that was my next question. So now the color scheme. So green, whenever I put it out there to some people, hey, what should I ask Prime? That was like, boom. Ask them why green.
So you either love it or you hate it, right?
Sure. Plenty of people love the color green.
And I like to think that there's several people that still do. It's a lot. It is. But I will say the nice part early on was if we saw something on social media, that green just popped. So it was like, cool, there's somebody that's using Prime. And people did kind of make the connection with the green to Prime. I think we're in a different place with the business now, that the green at times becomes more of an obstacle than it does anything else for some people, right? So I would say as we continue to grow and progress and gain feedback, we'll offer some more options. That's the hope, right? Now still, every time we get asked hey, the green knobs, can we change those?
Well, that's actually where I was gonna segue into, was on the Prodigy racks, for example, it's really not an issue because you can pick your rack color. But then for the Shorty bench, you pick your bench color, but you still have green knobs. So, and home gym owners, we love a color scheme. I've got my Pit Panther, homage to the Pit Panthers, yellow and and blue. I don't really want green handles if I buy
Yeah,
a Shorty bench.
it wouldn't look so nice with it, right?
It wouldn't. So, is there any chance in the future of an alternative?
100%. Yeah.
Awesome.
Don't know exactly what that'll look like
yeah.
yet, but we are working on some different options.
Okay.
The goal for us, being a company that literally ships all over the entire world, is making sure that whatever the ASTM standards are within that country, whatever, that we're obeying those and we're adhering those. So that's the big thing with the vibrant color that stands out. But we will look to provide options.
For viewers, to simplify that, basically it's a standard, that a safety clause, if you will, that
Right.
as a company you have to have, whether it's yellow, green, red, some kind of vibrant color on a pop pin, on
Yeah,
a
any
handle.
adjustment point, right? Whether it's a
Okay.
safety stop adjustment
it.
point, yeah, that's, in a nutshell, that's kind of what the standard is.
And I mean, there's plenty of other companies and things where I took a razor and took the orange off of a pin
Yeah.
because I didn't want that orange
Right.
color, something like that. Basement Brandon has a video with some of the green
His
knobs.
his delete kit, yeah.
Yes, the delete kit.
Yeah.
So, people, home gym owners have been finding workarounds
Right.
for the green when they don't want it. And then there's plenty that I see online that's they embrace it and they like
You
your
mentioned
stuff.
Jason, right?
Exactly.
So I think
Jason's got it.
Jason, I think he may have hated the green early on, but now I feel like he's coming around, right? So
You
he is
brought him on
starting to
board.
embrace it. Yeah.
That's right. You brought them on board with the green. Well, as far as product development, the Prodigy racks come out. Man, is that great during gym shutdown.
Yeah.
So then you come out of that, and coming through now, some of the biggest things in your lineup for home gym owners, not that they can't have some of your more sophisticated machines, with a larger home gym,
I will tell you,
definitely
man,
could.
I've been shocked. It's still the home gym, garage gym community being still somewhat new to us. I have been shocked at the amount of people that have moved, a arm curl machine to their basement, or a hack squat to their basement, or even to their garage. I guess I've been shocked with the amount of people that are wanting to do that. So yeah, it's still, we're still learning, right?
What was the piece over here earlier that you said last year?
The pendulum squat?
Pendulum
Yeah.
squat at Home Gym Con. That was a hit.
It was. That was the number one voted piece to bring to Home Gym Con, which, again, I didn't see that coming. There's a lot of other products I figured people would be asking for, but that was the number one requested product. So we're bringing it. We're going to bring it.
I have a smaller home gym. Don't tell my wife, but I'm trying to branch out to the garage and take that over slowly as
It's
well.
a process,
So
right?
once I have a firm grasp on the garage, in addition to my basement home gym, maybe I'll get some of those pieces
There you
in,
go.
But until then, some of the stuff right away that I think of with a smaller home gym would be the Shorty bench, so your specialty bars, the Smart Arm, because they bring a lot of versatility without a lot of real estate. So when it comes to developing the Shorty, it's nothing new. If viewers have never seen it, we'll drop in some B-roll here. I'll have a tour video, by the way, of the showroom on my channel on YouTube. So please, after watching this interview, jump over to Vintage Weights PGH and watch the tour. But the Shorty, it's not a new concept in terms of a bench that also has a leg extension, that also has a preacher curl you can put in. Like when I was 16 years old, there was this cheap,
My dad had one, man.
Yeah, rail thin metal type. It was practically aluminum. It was so cheap bench that could do that. But I think it's the first of a commercial quality for a premium quality for a home gym owner that has these attachments. So then can you talk through kind of the development of that? Like what was the design process like with all the different things?
Yeah, so man, I will say there's a group, and it's a small group, that are constantly just out there like, what can we do next? And I will say firsthand, I'm not the one that's like, hey, going to the lead engineer, I have a few times, what do you think about this?
Yeah.
But he is always just out there researching, looking, and just kind of what's the next move? So he drives a lot of that. And where it came from was prior to the Smart Arm. Obviously, it's worked out great, or at least my understanding was it was well prior to the Smart Arm.
Well, one product to the next that fits together.
It blended and it worked out well. I think was the chest supported row really old exercise, but off of a cable system with a bench, something that I know, or I believe that Cassum was probably one of the first people to kind of put it out there. Let's do this chest supported row. And in doing that, we're like, man, I'm making out with this bench pad all the time, right? So it's smacking me in the face, like I can't get comfortable, and I'm having to turn and we're like, what if we made basically a portion of it, we call it like the headrest, removable? And now if you want to do like shoulder presses, now if you have somebody spotting you on a heavy shoulder press, they're not making out with the back of the bench pad, right? So that just little things like that, and it kind of, that's where it evolved. And talking, you know, about support on an arm curl, that's like, we hadn't seen anybody doing that yet, and making it so it was adjustable. So it made sense. So that's where, you know, we added that in. And then it was, well, what about being able to, we got this headrest mount for the Shorty, like, what other attachments? And it just kind of evolved from there, man, honestly.
Well, I think a strength of it too, just, you know, playing around a little bit today and also watching videos of it, because I don't have a Shorty bench yet, is that is the ease of changing things. You know, you have your pop pin, it just fits in pretty, you know, it looks pretty easy to do. It's easy to manipulate, which for a home gym owner, that means a lot, because I just want to get through my training. It's 5 in the morning. I'm trying to get my training in before I got to go to work. So not having to, you know, really tinker around too much with switching things.
Yeah, you're still trying to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, right?
It's a nice thing.
Yeah.
Anything on the horizon in terms of new releases for the Shorty, new attachments that you can speak to?
So I will say one of the things we're working on now, which I know everybody has been on us for a while, is a way to make it stand vertically, store it vertically. So I will say that is like probably the next thing. Well, it's not probably. That is the next thing.
So I don't need a milk crate in addition to
No, you don't. No,
okay.
you don't.
Thank goodness.
So right now, and I'd say we're pretty close, is having a way to store that vertically, and also a wall mount is just kind of an extra thing. So that'll be the next attachment, so to speak, for the Shorty bench and our standard adjustable bench as well. Okay,
cool. And I mean, the milk crate's a real thing. I bought, actually didn't buy, I got it for free, a commercial bench that's 20 years old. And the first thing I noticed when I picked it up was that, oh my gosh, like it's gonna fall over, it doesn't stand up. I'm spoiled by modern benches. So then I have it resting on a milk crate in my garage as we speak. So
it worked, right?
It worked. You know, if you weren't developing that, I'd probably have a milk crate under the Shorty. So as far as Coach Cassum, who you mentioned, was this the origin of working with him, or how did this collaboration happen? You have the Cas handles, he's got videos of your equipment, like what?
So Cassum has played, you know, just a large role, like in our business as a whole. He is honestly brilliant. The guy is just brilliant. So we met Cassum when the business had first started, when he was down at MI40 Gym. He, a few years later, had decided to kind of move on, do his own thing, and where he's at now. And we just stayed in contact. And he came to the showroom. He spent a ton of time there, you know, working on content for his business. And then we had a lot of just different discussions about products, some of which we have, you know, launched and made a go of it. And there's still a lot that we just honestly haven't been able to get to, right? But the 4-in-1, I do believe, handle, it was the first kind of thing that we did with Cassum. And then that evolved into the Cas handles, evolved into the trap bar, into the super squat bar, and just on and on and on from there. So those were the first batch of products that we did with him.
Okay, so that was one of my questions was, in terms of bars, you have these 2 specialty bars.
Right.
But then you don't really have like a power bar or Olympic bar, anything like that. So I was wondering, why did you dabble into the specialty bar? So it was influence from Coach?
It was influence from Coach Cassum. And I'll say, like, the trap bar made sense with the adjustable handles and the height. When he first brought the super squat bar to us, it was like, this back pad, like... He's like, I did it. He's like, I rigged one up. I did it out of wood, and it feels great with wood. So anything you put on, it's going to feel great. And we were kind of like, sure. And I think he posted a video on his Instagram minimally, you know, several years ago when that first came out. And he was like, but he brought it to us, and we kind of messed around with it. And we started with just a bare sheet metal plate, and it was like, man, he's not wrong. Like,
yeah.
even this bare plate feels great.
Instead of a collar.
Yeah, instead of a collar, instead of
having a
just
plate.
like even having padding on it. I mean, this was like a bare metal plate, and it was like, man, this feels amazing. So
I saw the prototype when we were walking around, and I'll drop a picture of it. So it was much larger when you
much
were
larger. The
kinda
plate was
tinkering
much
around.
larger, and we worked with him to kind of narrow it down. Ran a bunch of different different types of people through a bunch of cycles on it. Cassum did a ton of testing on his end, and really played a massive role in just getting it to where it is today.
That's very cool. So then the trap bar, just behind the camera, I'll drop in. I'll drop
Some
in
images,
some pictures, some images. But you have some new, a new iteration, I guess I would say, of the trap bar. You might even say a new trap bar that you'll have at Home Gym Con.
Correct.
That people can try out. But can you just speak to it a little bit? What are some of the features that make this new trap bar different than the current one?
Gotcha. So the existing one, it's an open trap bar, right? So it's got, you can adjust the height of the handles. There's a couple different handle variations for it, and at the end of the day, it's a trap bar. It's not rackable. It's a trap bar. The newer bar that we're working on is rackable for starters, and we do already have designs for a wall mount, because I know that was kind of some of the other things that we've heard about storing. It's got a massive amount of different attachment options. So we are looking at, like 2-in-1 handle options. We're looking at singular handle options. We are looking at a way to adapt it to we're testing, right? To transform it into a super squat bar. It'll still obviously be a trap bar. We've got, moving articulating handles. We've got thigh pads for hip thrusts. So we've got a wide variety of different things coming out for it.
That's very interesting. So then, you could start out with the base, product, the bar, but then if you wanted to, you could buy like, a super squat attachment that would go on it, similar to some of your other products, like the Shorty bench, like the Smart Arm that has various.
We're trying to maximize versatility, and still the space, keeping that home gym, garage gym kind of community in mind. It's going to be like the Swiss Army knife of bars, I'd like to call it.
I like it.
Trying not to use any other names that other people have used or anything. We don't know what we're going to call it yet. Maybe we'll do a vote on that.
I was just going to say, that's a perfect Home Gym Con type of thing. Or viewers, drop a comment. What do you think? So, you've seen the picture of it. He's described it. What should they call this new trap bar that can also convert into a super squat that also has all these different features? If you have a name, drop it in the comments. As far as the Smart Arm, so you release the Smart Arm, you get some feedback fairly quickly. I mean, it wasn't too longer later, you released kind of like a adaptive kit, if you will, and now Smart Arm 2.0. So can you give an update on the Smart Arm as far as, where do things stand right now, and, talk a little bit to that history of the product?
Of course.
How long was it in development, for example?
Oh man, a long time. A long time. So I've got, very old dated pictures in our prior showroom. It had been several years. So it was just something that honestly, it took a lot of time for us to feel comfortable with it, to feel good about it, and just to get it to market, because trying to understand, what educational pieces, what instruction pieces we need, just really trying to take that into consideration to put our best foot forward. Obviously, we had the hiccup, we'll call it, which, it hit the upright.
Yeah,
so
for those that don't know, essentially when doing curls, correct?
Yeah, curls, or I think we may have had one doing a lying leg curl that made contact. Those are two of the movements that have,
Some
the
users
largest range of motion.
said, hey, this is going to hit the upright.
Yes.
When you're coming up with it. So then you released kind of a modification.
Right. Yeah. We had the help of. We're fortunate that a handful of individuals kind of brought this to our attention, and then also kind of worked as like our beta testing to help get us through it. And we're still working through their feedback, because they shared more than just that. But I'd like to say in the matter of a couple weeks, we came up with a fix, we addressed it, and immediately started pumping it back into the market.
And from a home gym perspective, I think that's really cool for a company to not just take a blunt stand of like, this is our design, you guys are wrong. But yeah, take a little bit of feedback and adjust to it and work through it, because you could have fought that battle.
Yeah, we could have,
You
man.
know?
But I always say, somebody's perception is their reality, right?
Sure.
And if it's their reality, I don't want to sit here and debate it with you or try and talk them out of it. And I'm kind of foolish if I don't take that feedback. We're still a newcomer to this community, and that's how we get better. So as painful as it was, because I know it consumed my time, day after day after day after day. We had a good support group that was, very vocal, and we were bouncing ideas off of each other. So I'm very grateful for that, very thankful for that. And I like to think, anybody that knows how long it takes us to launch a product, how quickly we reacted to it and solved the problem or the issue, I think we did pretty good. So, I'll kind of stand on that, hang our hat on that. As far as additional changes for the Smart Arm, right now we don't have any. So I know that there's been a wide variety of different feedback. If anything, we may come out with some more educational videos. That's probably where we'll kind of pivot or lean towards next, like set up and showing people, because even though, we say, hey, 15 or 14 and a half inches off the bench locator, do this, do that. Really, it's as simple as just, if you're doing an arm curl, line the elbow pad up with the green sticker, the axis rotation, and curl away, man, and you're good to go. So we will work to educate and probably simplify some of that, because that was the feedback we got, right?
But can I get a sticker that's not green? No, I'm just kidding.
Someday, right?
No, you can put your own color scheme on the axis of rotation sticker.
Right, I appreciate that.
So another thing that, working through your equipment, looking at the Shorty bench, to go back to that, was the padding. And Gluck made a great point, I think, when he was reviewing it, that padding on a bench is a personal opinion, kind of like knurling on a barbell. Some people are gonna like it, some people aren't. Have you changed the padding at all with the Shorty bench? Do you plan to, or offer any alternatives? Or are you just of the opinion of like, we like this and we're sticking with this?
So I won't say, forever that this is going to be it. At this point in time, changing it, having options, it's not a priority for us. I know there's a lot of individuals that would love for us to come out with, something that's maybe not as slick, or something that's a little bit firmer, something that's a little bit wider, is, all these different options. For right now, I'll say it is what it is, but I will say we hear you. We are listening to that feedback, and I would agree with what Gluck said, that, a little bit of a personal preference. I'm biased, but for me, the softer padding's comfortable. I like it. I'm not a power lifter, obviously, but it's just comfortable for me. I sit on some of the other benches. I go to a commercial gym, or visiting a customer, and I sit down on any other bench, and I'm like, wow, man, this thing's really hard. So again, personal preference, that's mine, but we're taking that feedback, we're listening to it. I'm not saying that we have anything on the horizon as far as changing it right now, but we hear you, maybe someday.
I'd throw out the suggestion, from my opinion, that you don't have to hard stop change it necessarily, but offering an alternative to purchase wouldn't be a bad deal, where you can select the pad that you like, or you could buy a replacement pad that is firmer or that isn't as slick. You could go that route as well, and then it adds to your product lineup.
Right. I totally agree. Totally agree.
You have the dimensions, you have the design.
We have it. We've got conversion kits, already. So we got all of it. It's the time and just kind of putting on that project list to make it happen.
Well, as far as going from Strive to Prime, and one of the most well-known things being the Smart System and the different,
Loading
posts,
points,
loading points. When I think about that and the change in resistance, it's hard not to also think about some of the, technological advancements with resistance machines and E-resistance, things like that. So, where do you see Prime, and is any of that a threat to Prime in your perspective, or is any of that, pique your interest for future products or future direction?
No, I would say it certainly does, man. There's a lot of different companies doing a lot of different things. Some of which I think is really great, and there's others that I'm like, that's probably not going to work. But again, I think people that are trying to innovate or are innovating and kind of pushing the envelope to get better, It's how we all get better, right? So
Yeah.
I like seeing people not just take the stance of, hey, I see a smart arm with 3 pegs on it. I'm gonna copy that. I'm just gonna, like, that's not helping anybody, right? Like, let's find a way to make it better. And there's companies out there that are maybe not 3-peg torque arm, but companies, from an electronic standpoint that are making it look that better. So I would say our focus is, how can we make a product the best that we can, right?
Yeah.
And how can we give people the best experience? So the pendulum squat, pretty good example. It does not have a 3-peg torque arm on it, but you have the ability to alter the counterweight, remove the counterweight. So that's a way of resisting or modifying the resistance profile. Look at the hack squat. We've got the reverse banding with the adjustability there. There's a way to alter the strength curve. So there's some cases where maybe it doesn't make sense from an engineering standpoint or an exercise standpoint. So our goal is, we'll still give you some adjustability, but we're still going to make sure that whatever we put out there, it feels great. That's the goal.
Nice. So now I have some questions for you from some of my followers, some of my subscribers that I put out there on my YouTube and on my Instagram. Hey, I'm going to Prime today. Like, what do you want me to ask Prime Fitness? So Enrico91, he wants to know, is there any chance that you will ever make a plate-loaded seated leg curl?
Yes. So forever is a long time, right? So,
True.
So I will say that is, it's not a piece that we've had conversations about. It's not one that, we've got designs for right now. We've got a few others that we're working on, but I think it's a piece we need, right? I think, even us talking this morning, you were like, you really don't have a seated leg curl, right?
Yeah.
We don't in the plate load. So I think it's a piece that's missing. We offer it in both hybrid and evolution, so why not in a plate loaded?
Fair enough. Home Gym Harry asked about the non-green options for equipment, which you already spoke to. So let's go to Joe 3719. He was wondering about any new handles in development. You mentioned some of the handles and how that was a great thing for home gym owners. Anything new on that?
So we've had some requests that we're looking at for a wider, 4-in-1 handle, because the current one's 20 inches. So we've had some requests for that. We're taking a look at it. As far as like an individual handle, I think we have the best there right now. I think the rotate handles for any of your pulling movements are great. They're next level. And for any of your like press and curling movements, the CAS handles are it, whether you want the large ones, the small ones. So I like to think we're good there. But yeah, right now we don't have anything new in the way of handles, but we're gonna keep checking things out, feeling it out, and Cassum probably has 30 different ideas for a new handle. So maybe we'll call him up after this and see what he's got.
Speaking of CAS and the CAS handles, Doug Dude 70 specifically, this is a very specific question, but I found it interesting. He wants to know if there's any chance you could offer a version of CAS handles that have eye bolts on both ends, like a V-bar, if you can imagine that.
Okay, I can. Is it possible? Probably. Have we looked at it? No.
Doug Dude is floating the idea.
He might be the guy. So we have looked at different attachment points for those to, if you want to hook up a carabiner and just basically have it there with no strap. We've messed around with some prototypes there. The key is trying not to mark up the handle and making sure that whatever we use is still strong enough that they're not going to break or snap. We don't want that, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good one. Yeah, we'll spend some more time on that.
And then last one for you is from Joe 3719 as well. I thought it was an interesting one. So you have a specialty bar lineup of trap bar, super squat bar, safety squat bar kind of family, if you will. Any chance of a multi-grip bench bar coming next in terms of a specialty bar?
Yes. So,
nice.
So I will say part of this new trap bar, Swiss Army knife bar, whatever your followers decide to name it, right?
Yeah.
We'll have different handle options for different grip options. So I would say we should be checking the boxes for that through this new bar.
Very cool. Now, before we wrap up, if you'd indulge me, this is home gym history. So I'm just curious, your history of coming into working with the company, with your family's company, you know, as well as just your strength history, you know, did you have a home gym, you know, growing up or anything like that, or did you go to the high school gym or something like that, commercial gym?
Yeah. So I will say for me as a young kid growing up, my dad was huge into lifting. And still every day, like if he misses a workout, you know, work with him every day. He's gonna call me and he's like, man, you know, I just don't feel great. Like I missed that workout. So he's very routine, creature of habit. But I was around that my entire life. So I knew like when I got home from school, especially when I was younger before sports started, it's like, say hi to dad. Dad hits the back room, and that's where he had his little home gym set up.
Nice.
And I'd watch him just in there lifting all the time. And I dabbled in it a little bit. It was more like after high school where I started to really become more into lifting, and it just became more of like a hobby or a passion. But my dad was the one that got me into it. Seeing him doing that, just kind of leading by example, you know, I'll never have the same arms that he does. He's got, you know, he's been genetically blessed where I guess I didn't get any of that maybe. But no, he's worked hard, man, and just kind of seeing that it's always been an interest. And then our relationship through the fab business with Strive, you know, seeing the bits and pieces kind of just going through were always interesting to me. And then it was like, man, this is cool. You know, I lift, my dad lifts. We've got this opportunity, like, man, this could be really, really fun. And honestly, man, it has been. It's been from just being in the grind of just like, you know, metal fabrication for the last 21 years. This has kind of brought new life to the business, a new spin on the business, and kind of just like this new thing for us to kind of work on together. So it's been really cool.
That is very cool. So thank you so much. I appreciate it, Jared.
I appreciate you making the trip, man.
Yeah,
really
absolutely. It's been fun. And please, check out Prime Fitness USA, their booth at Home Gym Con this coming June, last weekend in June. You can save money on the tickets, like I said, with code VINTAGE. You can also shop for anything at Prime Fitness and save a little money with code VINTAGE. And make sure to check out the tour on Vintage Weights PGH. Thanks so much.
Thanks,
Appreciate
man.
it.
My pleasure.